Hey guys, it's Brian. We're back here with the Frostbite JL. Today we're going to be installing the Rugged Ridge Arcus bumper. It's going to hold our new Warn Evo 10S winch. So let's go ahead and get that on. Alright guys, so this is the bumper here for us. We're going to go ahead and pull off this ugly plastic one and we're going to replace it with this nice stamped steel one. This one does weigh about 75 pounds when it's all together, 74 I believe they say. And then our winch is going to be 76, so we're right around 150 pounds we're going to be adding to the Jeep. I'm going to go ahead and measure the wheel wells and we'll see how much it actually ends up sagging once we add that weight. This factory bumper does weigh 20 or 30 pounds though, so we'll be adding about 120 pounds to the Jeep. Alright, so we'll come back and we'll let you know how much it actually sags the suspension and if you're going to need to add something to bring it back up to get it to the same level. So let's go ahead and get this on the Jeep. Alright, so we're going to come in here and we got to take this beauty plate off here. You'll need some kind of pry tool, kind of pop these little poppets out. And then once you get those guys out, you can go ahead and remove this piece. There we go. Take that other one out. We'll do the same thing on this side and then we'll pull this piece out. Now that we got those two clips out, we're going to come over here to the passenger side. And we got the wire harness for the fog lights. We'll just go ahead and we'll unplug that. And then now we can get to the 18 millimeter bolts in the back here. We'll pull those out and we can remove this plastic bumper. All right, so 7 more of those to go and then we'll get this bumper off here. That's an 18 millimeter. Did that with a wobble socket and an extension here on the impact. Alright, now we gotta get the 2 inner ones and then we should be free to pull that off. Alright, and we're gonna have to go ahead and pull the factory skid plate. It's gonna be 2 16 millimeter bolts and that'll gain us some clearance to get to those back bolts here. Alright, now that's out of the way. Now we can get up in here with that impact. And it is pretty tight in here, so I might have to go ahead and do these guys by hand. And these aren't super tight, so they're pretty easy to get by hand. Yeah, you will have to use a ratchet, or if you have a really small impact, you might be able to get it in here. But I'm going to go ahead and pull these 2 and then the other 2 on the other side, and we'll get this bumper off. Alright, now that those are loose, we should be able to go ahead and pull this off here. Alright. Now we're free to go ahead and install our new bumper. Alright, so we're going to have to go ahead and pull these 16 millimeter bolts here on both sides and make room for the new heavy duty winch plate for us. Alright, now that those are off, we can go ahead and put the winch bracket on. It's going to come up from the bottom here. And then we're going to secure it with the 16 millimeter bolts we took out of the side here for those frame horns. Just get those snugged up for now. Alright. And then we can go ahead and get the rest of the pieces on here. Alright, so if you bought your bumper with the winch guard, the overrider, you'll have a set of brackets like these, and you'll need to go ahead and pull the frame horn bolts on the side here, and then you'll put these right here to support that winch guard. Then this new guy will go right here, and that'll give some added bracing for that winch guard. So we'll do that on the other side, and then we'll start getting the rest of it buttoned up here. Oops. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the factory fog lights. I have the halogen ones on the Sport, so it's a little different if you have a Sahara with the LEDs. This one's going to be pretty easy. We're going to pull these bolts so we can get the harness out, and then we've got these little star bolts that we'll have to get out, and then we can remove that and transfer it over to our new bumper. Alright, so pull those guys out. And those were actually 13 millimeter. And then now we'll be able to go ahead and remove these guys. All right, so this is gonna be a T15 for these guys. I wanna be careful with these. Don't wanna hammer on them too hard. This is into plastic. All right, so that frees your halogen fog light for you. And then we'll have to go along here and just kind of unhook all the wiring harness, and we'll transfer it over to the new bumper. All right, go ahead and remove this harness here. It actually pulls it out pretty easy. If not, you can use a little pry tool to help you so you don't break anything off. Once you get this free, we'll be able to transfer it on over. All right, and now those guys are free. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get these OE fog lights out of this factory housing. So what you do is you just kind of pinch these guys and they pull on out. We'll get this factory bracket off, and then Rugged Ridge supplied the new bracket, and we'll get that transferred on over. There we go. All right. So now that you have it free from the factory one, you'll want to go ahead and pop these guys into the Rugged Ridge supplied one if you have the Sport with the halogens. And then that'll come over here, and we'll screw this into here. And this will actually be the backing nuts for the main bolts that hold on the outer part of the bumper for us. Disconnect the harness, and then we'll pop this guy out, and we'll get it transferred over to the driver's side bracket. And then that one will go like that. All right, so to attach this hardware, at least on the Sport, you only use 3 of the bolts. On the Sahara, it looks like you use 4 of them. You do use a little 2.5 Allen, and then you do need a 7 millimeter for the little tiny nuts. So you go ahead and fasten these 3. We'll do it on both sides, and we can go ahead and start getting that bumper on. Use the supplied washer. Then I'll come back and we'll snug all these guys up. All right, so when you go to install your winch into your winch plate, you want to go ahead, get your hardware ready. You're gonna have a lock nut and a washer, and then it's gonna bolt up into the bottom of the winch into these square bolt nuts. And these are gonna slide into here where it's indexed, and then that'll hold your winch down. And those get torqued to 30 or 35 foot-pounds. And then I heard there's a little trick. If you put a little black RTV on there, when you slide those in, that'll keep it from sliding around when you're trying to line it up. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put a little black RTV on all 4 of these, and then you slide them into here, and then that'll keep them from rolling around. So once you get them lined up in there, that'll keep it from sliding around while you're lifting it over to the bumper. So we'll get the rest of these in there and then we'll go ahead and bolt her down. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and lower this down into your winch tray here. Gently. Alright, so now once you get the winch in here on the winch plate, if you guys do this same setup, it is pretty tight back here in the grill. But we found if you tuck the cords underneath and then kind of clock it into the position, you're able to get it in there. It is a little snug, but it's not pushing too hard. So then you go ahead and run your power and your negative. You want to hook up your negative with the 14mm back here. You'll run them over here, and then later we'll run it up behind the headlight towards the battery. So now let's go ahead and we'll get the mounting hardware on here and we'll get it all torqued up. Alright, so you want to go ahead and get all these started. Hopefully those bolts didn't shift at all while you're installing it. Looks like they lined up pretty good. So we'll get these all in here loose and then we'll come back and we'll Loctite, or we'll torque them up to about 30-35 foot-pounds. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and before we actually bolt this down, we're going to get this on. It's the Haas fair lead for the winch. And I'm also installing a Tuffy license plate flip-up bracket. So you want to put that on first and then the winch Haas. And we'll go ahead and we'll tighten this down and then we'll feed it through the rope and we'll get our bumper bolted on here. So let's go ahead and do that. So that's what it'll look like. And then this will flip your license plate up over the winch. Alright, so once you get those threaded in loosely, then you can go ahead and put the outside ones in. And this will reuse the bracket here you put the fog light on, and these are the welded on nuts to secure the outside here. Alright, then you want to make sure your overrider brackets underneath line up. This one doesn't quite, so we'll have to go back, loosen that guy up and move it a little bit. And then we'll bolt that winch hoop over the top and tighten it down there. Well, this is kind of what it's going to look like for you guys. We're just going to finish buttoning it up and then we'll come back, kind of show you the end result. Right, so now we're going to go inside, go ahead and install the overrider bumper if you purchased it. It does have a little rubber washer that goes in here, and then the underneath side's going to be a nut and bolt. It is a little tight, so you will have to get it started and then use a ratcheting wrench to go ahead and snug her up. Then we're going to go ahead and install the fog lights. We got to tighten up the side frame horn bracket that holds these guys, get them snugged down, and then we should be all set. All right. Now that we got the overrider kind of buttoned up, you'll have to come back with a box wrench, a 16mm, to snug this down. And then now we're just doing the last two outside brackets. These are the ones that hold the fog lights. I went ahead and plugged the harness in first because it's going to be hard to get to that factory location afterwards. And then we'll hook this up and we'll kind of tuck the wire up underneath here, and then we'll snug everything down. All right, now that we got everything kind of cinched up, I'm going to go ahead and throw on the Rugged Ridge shackles that we got for it too. So you got two options here. You can either run the lower or the upper one. The upper one's a bigger hole for a thicker diameter one. Well, that's how those will go. We'll get the one on the other side here. And then we've got our Tuffy plate all figured out. We just got to hook the license plate up to it. And then all we have left is to run the negative and the positive wire up into our battery, and then we'll be able to make sure our winch works. All right, so we're going to come in here, we're going to remove the air box. I'm going to kind of snake the positive and negative wires for the winch up behind the headlight here, and then we're going to go underneath here, and we'll go underneath the box, and then we'll be able to attach it directly here to the battery. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and that'll look nice and clean. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and unhook these front two and see if I can kind of pull this whole apparatus out here. You want to be careful, you got a couple of connections here you don't want to screw up. Those are for oxygen sensors and whatnot. Loosened it here. Go ahead and unhook it from the tubing. There we go. Then the whole box comes out. So if you come over here and look, that'll buy us a bunch of room in here to kind of run that up and over, and we'll take it over here to the battery. All right, so I got a wire coat hanger here. I'm gonna hook up our positive or negative wires here, and we're gonna help that'll help us snake this up through the bottom here. Get it underneath the grill here. We'll bring it up, kind of right up through here. And then that way we can run it back underneath now. Alright. Okay, keep that tucked underneath there so it still looks clean. And then it's protected there by that shield. And that way you don't see any of these wires from the front. And then we can run these guys on over here. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, now that I brought it up through the grill there by the headlight, is I'm gonna push it back through. Since we got the air box out, I'm gonna run it underneath the air box, and then we'll run it kind of like this on over to the battery. So that'll look a little cleaner, and it'll be hidden underneath here. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. All right, so I ran it up by the headlight here. We took out the air box, and I'm gonna kind of run it right through here, go under this bracket here for the battery, and then we can kind of go up, we'll wrap it around, and we'll attach it. The negative's a little bit longer than the positive, which works out great. So the positive would go there, and then we'll snake the negative around to here. So let's go ahead and we'll get that hooked up, we'll get it back together, and we'll check the function of the winch. We ran our negative around the back side of the battery here, and then we'll go ahead and get that positive hooked up, and we should be all set. And that should be about perfect for us. Let me go ahead and grab whatever size that is, and we'll get this hooked up. Alright, I'll go ahead and I'll tighten this down, and I'll kind of show you guys how it looks all buttoned up. Alright, so we made that connection there, so that's the positive there to the battery. We can go ahead and cover that guy back up. Dust cover. So we ran it around the back side here, and then this will be covered by the air filter, so it'll be pretty clean, and then we don't have any of these wires running anywhere near the belts or whatnot. And I might go ahead and zip tie this here just for security. But you want to get these guys snug, not overly tight, and you should be ready to go. now that I hooked everything back up here, you want to make sure you push the air filter back in, make sure it pops back in those rubber seals at the bottom. And you go ahead and snug everything back up, and then we'll make sure the winch is working. All right, so we're gonna come back in here, snuggle these guys up. Not too tight. Over here on the side. Tucked it down underneath the intake tray there. Kind of between that bracket there's a little notch, and then up and around the battery, and connect to the positive and the negative. And then I did cut a little relief in the dust cover here, just so that sits flush like it did from the factory, so it's nice and covered. All right, now let's go ahead and test it. All right, so we're gonna hook up that new winch controller, and we're gonna see if this winch works. So go ahead and plug that in there. It only goes in one way. And we are getting a light on there, so that should be good. And then normally if you're going to run your winch a lot, you want to go ahead and start your motor. Since we're just going to make sure that it works, it should be fine. Alright, so out. Back in. There's a slight delay on there, so you want to be careful when you're getting down towards the end here. But looks like it works. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll button everything else up. We'll get our license plate on, make sure everything's tight, and then I do have to get the skid plate back on there, and then we'll reroute the wiring for the fog lights. Alright, so I want to reuse my factory skid plate. It's close, but it looks like you could still, if you bend it a little bit, you could still get it back in here. There we go. It's real snug up against this, but it'll work. Then you just send these guys back in, and we'll tighten everything else up, and we should be all done. All right, now that we got everything tightened up and we got the winch hooked up, we're gonna go ahead and add the last touch. It's gonna be the winch hook here. All you'll do is just pull that cotter pin, which goes right back in here. You make sure you bend your cotter pin, and then we'll cinch this guy up, make sure it's gonna work with our new license plate bracket, and then we should be all done. All right, we'll just cinch this guy up. All right, and I figured out the remote here. So what you gotta do is you gotta push and you gotta hold this button for about 5 to 10 seconds. And then this blue light will come on, and then it looks like it'll work for us. Yep. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this bumper install. I'm pretty happy with the Rugged Ridge Arcus bumper. I do like how it has the recessed winch mount, also with the winch hoop on there. And then the shackles there, that's pretty nice, and it reuses the factory fog lights. I really like how the Warn winch looks in there. I'm excited to use that Evo 10S. And then I even like the Tuffy license plate bracket. Lets you flip it up there. So that'll be nice. Alright guys, I really like how it turned out. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments what you think about it. I'll have links for my Amazon store. I'll have all the stuff that we put on today. And then go ahead and stick around for the next video. We're going to be putting the lift on the Jeep. And we got more fun things planned. So stick around. Thanks guys.